Well, hey everybody, we're in the second week of our series called Permission Granted. And we've been talking about how to navigate the freedom we have in a way that honors God, honors ourselves, and honors others. And like we've said, freedom might not always be something you feel like you have a lot of as a teenager. It probably feels like you need permission from an adult in your life to do just about anything, right? Well, I'm about to give you permission to do something you probably don't get to do often. Turn to the person sitting next to you and share the last thing you had to ask a parent or guardian for permission to do. I'll give you a sec. Listen, I can understand how frustrating all those things can be. But have you ever considered that there might be a reason for all the boundaries that we have in our freedom? Trust me when I tell you that I learned that lesson the hard way. I still remember the night I stayed at my best friend Ryan McClure's house. We were sleeping in an old metal shed in his backyard, and we had this incredibly bright idea. Let's go toilet paper it. So we gathered eggs, toilet paper, shaving cream, literally whatever else we could load into an old burlap sack. Around 12:30 a.m., we geared up all in black and headed out. We ran all around town having a blast, egging, papering, shaving creaming, our friends and random people's homes. We were nearly home to the safety of his backyard when we ran across Greenleaf, right in front of a police car. The unhindered freedom we had experienced the last few hours, it changed. It changed the instant his squad car lights flicked on. In fact, a chase ensued and I ended up in the bushes while the officer pulled his sidearm on me, screaming at me to come out. I can still feel the disappointment as my parents rolled up at 2:30 in the morning to pick me up. I had misused the freedom that they had trusted me with. Isn't that how life works sometimes? We love the idea of freedom. We all want to do what we want, when we want, how we want, but when we finally get the freedom to do just that, it feels great until it doesn't. Maybe you've stayed up way too late binging your favorite show and the next day you were exhausted so you failed the big test. Or maybe you ignored your coach's instructions to practice that new skill and eventually you found yourself riding the bench instead of starting in the game. Maybe you scrolled through YouTube shorts instead of finishing those chores and your parents took away your phone. Having freedom is great and all, but sometimes we use it in ways that lead to consequences we didn't expect and regrets we didn't want. Sometimes we're tempted to use the freedom we have to do things we know aren't good for us in the first place, just like
we convince ourselves they're no big deal.
Repeating that silly rumor won't hurt anyone.
Watching that video game online couldn't be that bad. Going to that party can't cause that much trouble.
Lying to an adult is just a part of growing up. Sending that picture to a crush should be okay.
You see what I mean? In the moment, that kind of stuff doesn't seem like it's all that big of a deal. But in the long run, using our freedom to choose things that have the potential to hurt us can lead us to a lot of regret. It can lead to habits you didn't want, problems you've never expected, and harm to yourself and others. And over time, your relationships, your self-esteem, your health, your faith, and your character can all take a pretty big hit. The problem? Most of the time is that we don't know what we're doing until it's too late. Sure, we're exercising our freedom, but in the reality, we're actually using our freedom to make unwise choices. So how do we know the difference? How can we learn to make wise choices and decisions with the freedoms that we have? Here's the good news. We aren't alone in this struggle. In fact, humans have been trying to figure this out from the beginning of time. And I mean that literally. In Genesis, the very first book of the Bible, we see this play out in a very big way. You might remember that Genesis literally means beginning. In Genesis, we see how the ancient Israelites understood the way God created and worked at the very start of the universe. It's like our origin story. We read in Genesis about Adam and Eve, the first humans God created. They lived in this close relationship with God in the Garden of Eden. They had freedom to cultivate the garden and permission to eat almost anything that grew there. But there was one rule. God told them they couldn't eat the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But it was only one rule. Just stay away from that one tree. Don't eat that fruit. Easy peasy. What could go wrong? Well, a lot actually. Let's look. Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? Do you see how fast that happened? With one simple question, the serpent planted seeds of doubt in Eve's mind when it came to freedom and wise choices. Look at what happened next. The woman said to the serpent, "We may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say you must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden. You must not touch it or you will die." Eve explained that while they did have freedom, they also had boundaries. In other words, like we said, they had to be responsible with their freedom. But of course, the serpent didn't give up that easily. "You will not certainly die," the serpent said to the woman, "for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." When his first attempt didn't work, the serpent came back with a stronger punch. He basically said to Eve,
Maybe God's keeping something from you. Maybe there are more ways to use all this freedom than you think.
"Look, I know it may be easy for us to judge Eve here, but I think if we're honest, every one of us has been tempted to think the same way a time or two. We all know what it feels like to wonder if using our freedom the way God intended really is what's best for us." You may know where the story goes from here, but let's keep reading. When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. In that moment, Adam and Eve probably thought they were just exercising their freedom. They may have thought,
Hey, we're making our own choices. This is what freedom looks like.
but what they didn't realize was that not all choices lead to real, lasting freedom. So what happened? Well, seems like it didn't take long for things to change. Adam and Eve started to feel regret and embarrassment over their choice. Instead of staying close to God like they had always been, they hid from God. Their choices broke that close relationship with Him, not just for them, but for all humans to come after them, including us. Here's the thing, before their unwise decision, Adam and Eve had real freedom. They walked with God in the garden, fully known and fully loved. They had peace and joy and purpose. They were living out God's best for their lives. And then they decided to do something with that freedom that wasn't good for them. Eating the fruit didn't make life better. In fact, it made life much more difficult for everyone. While the stakes may not feel as high for us, what happened with Adam and Eve happens to us too. We all know what it feels like to use our freedom in a way that isn't good for us. And because of that, we also probably know that the only thing that those choices led to is more pain, more regret, and more consequences than we ever expected. Now, you may be thinking, I've done some things that I knew weren't good for me, but nothing bad really happened. So what's the big deal? Well, believe me when I tell you the consequences are there. Even if you don't experience them right away, over time, the choices that you make do impact your life in one way or the other. So here's what I want you to remember today. If it isn't good for you, it isn't freedom. The Apostle Paul, a teacher in the early church, understood this. And in the New Testament, he wrote this: "I have the right to do anything you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but I will not be mastered by anything." Are there things we could do with our freedom? Sure. But is everything that we do with our freedom good for us? No. Just because we can do something doesn't mean you should. You see, we experience true freedom when we follow God's best for our lives. You see, freedom should be guided by what's good for us, what honors God, and what builds up and respects others. Because real freedom, it doesn't trap us. It sets us free to experience more good in our lives. It's about making choices that lead to something good, something beneficial for you and for others. So, if it isn't good for you, it isn't freedom. Now, let's be clear. Simply knowing that won't change the fact that we'll misstep from time to time. Like Adam and Eve, we're also human, and that means we definitely make wrong decisions or choose what we know isn't good for us along the way. Like those Oreos I ate last night. When that happens, I want us to remember Adam and Eve. When they messed up, God didn't abandon them. God still loved them, and God still loves us. God wants what's best for us, and when we mess it up, and we all will, God is still there, still loving, and still ready to help us walk in real freedom once again. Now, the question is, how do we use our freedom to make choices we won't regret? How do we know the choice we're about to make isn't that good for us? Well, one way to start is by asking yourself 3 simple questions. Number 1, what do I want to do with my freedom? Be honest with yourself and clearly name the choice that you're about to make. For real, say it out loud to yourself. I'm about to watch a movie I know isn't good for me. It might make you think deeper about what you're thinking of doing, and it will definitely change the way you make choices about your freedom. Question 2, why do I want that? Again, this will require you to be honest with yourself. Why do you really want what you think you want? For popularity, for relief, because of curiosity, because someone else told you it would help? Say it out loud or write it down. Checking the reasons you have for the choice you're about to make is a skill that you can take with you as you grow up. And number 3 is, what good can come from this? Try to play it out in your mind. If you make that choice, what good can come from it? How will it benefit your life? Not just now, but over time. Will using your freedom this way really and truly lead to God's best? And pray to God and ask God to help you make the wise choice with your freedom. I know this isn't always easy to see. That's why I want to challenge you to invite someone into your life who can help. Someone who can point out when a choice you're about to make may not be wise. Someone who can help you remember to use your freedom for what's best. Here's a hint. Your small group leader is a great person to ask for help. And of course, I hope you remember that even when you use your freedom in ways that don't lead to what's best, God is still there. He still loves you, and he still wants what's best for you. You'll always have a chance to start over, and you'll always be met with God's love when you do. Now, when you head to your small group, think about this one question. What's one choice you can make with your freedom that you know is good for you?